What's really going on, everybody? We are back with another episode, number 68. Before we get into the news, be sure to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and Twitter at WRGO Pod. Be sure to also subscribe and listen on YouTube, where you can watch all of our videos in full. Be sure to also subscribe, like, share, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Finally, be sure to check out our website, what's really going on pod.com. And at this point, I will let Henry kind of tease what we have dropping soon.
Nah, you know what I'm saying? We always do Black History Month merch, being that we kind of believe in Black history should be celebrated throughout the whole year. We always drop our merch at the end of Black History Month. So that being the case, we've reconstructed and reconfigured, designed to kind of promote change agents, highlighting Stacey Abrams, Warnock, and of course the groundwork of all of that, John Lewis. So check that out. All of that will be on the website, what'sreallygoingon.com. So yeah.
/shop. And last time I checked, we started off with the t-shirts already on sale. So be sure to cop that. We are being very
they on pre-sale, so you can cop. They on pre-sale.
Boom. So of course that is Henry. I am Noah, being joined by, as always, Mackenzie, who is looking ever so present in the third box of our screen right now. I'm sorry. All right, let's get into the news with some food for thought. I had to add some comment to this. All right, so minimum wage. So I think recently this week, President Biden, he made $15 an hour minimum wage part of his $1.9 trillion economic/COVID relief plan. It was included in the version that narrowly passed the House last week. The Senate parliamentarian, in kind of a weird rules order, he said that Biden could not include it without getting 60 votes. As of now, Biden plans on passing his COVID relief with just 50. Some have pressured Vice President Harris, who is the president of the Senate, to overturn the ruling or even fire the Senate parliamentarian and put someone in place who would vote or who would rule that $15 an hour minimum wage can be included in the bill. Progressive members of Congress are upset that the Biden administration is not fighting to raise the minimum wage now. Pramila Jayapal, a progressive member from Seattle, said, nobody's going to be interested in procedural reasons of why we can't deliver. My question, since this is food for thought, should Biden make raising the minimum wage a top priority?
Yes.
Yeah, like people are struggling before, like, I don't understand, especially in major cities such as DC, Atlanta, New York, San Francisco. Gentrification is a big thing. The cities continue to the cost of living continues to rise, but men like paying wages don't. For instance, that's why I stayed in DC all those years, because coming to Georgia, the salaries were like what? My degree costs more than what? You know what I'm saying? Because the way I know the cost of living is cheaper, and that does kind of sometimes balance out. But no, I think the minimum wage here is $7, maybe $8. That's crazy.
The current minimum wage is $7.25. The federal
right, something like that. So for me, is how are you living off of that? Especially I'm thinking about maybe someone in my age group, 25, 26, who has a kid, and they may be a single parent, or even if both of the people, and let's say they didn't go to college, so they're definitely making minimum wage or within that, a little bit within that. And apartments, a nice apartment in a safe area, it's anywhere between $1,300-$1,400 for a 2-bedroom. So it's how are you comfortably paying for this without struggling from check to check? So $15 may not even be enough, honestly, in big cities such as New York or DC, because it's expensive, especially to live in a safe area or an area that you won't be bothered by Karen. So that's just how I feel about it. I definitely think it needs to be a priority. It should have already been done.
Mackenzie?
Yeah, I somewhat agree with Henry. You weren't completing sentences, so I'm just like, but I got what you were saying.
What?
You were like, yeah. But no, anyways, what you were saying was fair though. Like $15 an hour, 40 hours a week times 52 weeks a year is like $31,000. That's
Terrible.
childish. Yeah, that's terrible. And like $15 is still not enough. So yeah, it should be a priority. This is another way that Biden can really show us that Democrats are actually working for the people and not just for their own self-interest. I feel, because like they've been fighting for $15 minimum wage for so long that it's not even relevant anymore. Like it needs to be like $20 an hour. So it just, I mean, yeah, it definitely needs to be a top priority. Yeah.
I mean, I think my thing is that like to expand on Henry's point, I mean, if you're making $15 an hour and you're working 40 hours a week, it's not even that's not enough in like places like New York or DC or Atlanta. That's not enough anywhere. Like you could like if you live in Michigan or if you live in like basically anywhere and you make $31,000 a week, you're one missing paycheck or one injury away from like a real financial crisis. And I think that's the way that people need to talk about it, is like, if you do actually make this wage and if something happens to you, if you get sick, if you get COVID and you can't work for a week, even two, what happens? So you basically don't have any gap. You don't have any room for error ever. And that's all before taxes. So after taxes, you take 31,000 away, what are you left with? Barely anything. So I think, what were you gonna say?
Nah, I'm just agreeing. Like, it's crazy how the government, like, they live comfortable. They're not worried about this stuff. So like, for you, especially, that's why like the Democratic Party is so laughable. And then Biden, I'm kind of over them because it's like, that's from the stimulus check to COVID aid to a lot of stuff. It's just like, it was all this talk, but like, what's going on, bro? Help your people.
I mean, I think that's my thing, is that, and even what makes it worse is that it's not even like if they put it in the bill, it would pass and $15 hour minimum wage would be like the thing now. It would be phased in until like 2025. So like you're taking your sweet ass time to do it later when it's like, okay. And I think people don't actually like really talk about enough. Like, okay, if you are making 15, you still don't have enough. But what if you are making the federal minimum wage, which is $7? What are you even doing with that? Nothing. Then you have to work multiple jobs. Like, what do you actually have to structurally do if you do make that? And
sell drugs.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's
what they want you
I mean, there has to be like a study that ties the two together. Like, to make it, well, not selling drugs, let me not say that, but to make ends meet, you have to do what you have to do. And it's just like,
I mean, and I think it's even deeper, where it's like it cannot even be a thing of like, oh well, this is just someone who doesn't have like education. You can do everything right, and still do that. Like you can you can do great in high school, and then you can get to try to apply to college, and you realize I don't have the money to even do this. So then what do I do?
Talk about going to college and not finding a job and getting offered minimum wage. I know a few people we went to school with.
Like, and that's another thing of the narrative that needs to change. Like this idea that it's really just only people, and this is not to put a hierarchy of who works where, but like this isn't just secluded to people who work at fast food restaurants or, you know, like it's a bigger thing
overall.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we've been in the working industry for what, a good solid 5 years now. I can say that. So with that being the case, it's like some of the like jobs you see in the salary is like, what? And then they want you to have a master's degree and this. It's like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I mean, my first job, I made $35,000, and that was like, looking back, I don't know like how I did that. I mean, where it's just like,
I see your face, cause boy,
But the only way you were able to do that, I'm assuming, not to get in your business or put your business out there, is that you have family members that if something did happen,
Right.
or
I had to have I had a
you
safety.
had that net.
Yeah.
People don't have
People
that.
don't have that. And I think
Therefore, you have to do things to make ends meet. So it's
yeah. So I mean, I actually, at least getting back to like the likelihood of it, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But I actually hope that at least progressive members of Congress at least hold their feet to the fire, as like you're kind of screwing people on this by at least not having the fight. Because what like if I think they just say like, oh, it's not going to pass, so let's not include it anyway. I'd rather you literally do it, and then now I know who doesn't support it, and then you can go after that person. So like,
try to do something, because this ain't it. It's Americans are really struggling.
Right. So moving on more on the Biden front, this has to do with his ambition vaccine rollout. On Tuesday, Biden announced that the U.S. will have enough vaccine in terms of supply for every adult by the end of May. He also announced that he would direct states to prioritize teachers in their vaccine plans, reemphasizing a commitment to returning students. Some interesting facts that I found. Since Biden has taken office under January 20, this is where kind of COVID has gone. It's actually gotten a lot better, but I don't really think we talk about it like that. I'm going to say the number of cases, that hospitalizations and deaths that were on January 20th to today. Cases have gone down from 189,000 that was on January 20th to 54,000 when I checked on Tuesday. Hospitalizations are down from 122,000 to 46,000, and deaths are down from 4,400 to 18. Still not good, but clearly a lot better than where we have been. Is Biden delivering on his big promise? Because I think this is kind of what he was talking about the most when he got in. After he got in office, he talked about kind of like, I'm gonna go back and I'm actually gonna address COVID. So like,
so like I think so he just announced this week that by May, the end of May, every adult American there will be enough vaccines for every adult American in the country. That's a major moment. However, I don't think that there has been enough talk. And that's why so many layers to this, because it's like, yeah, there's enough vaccines available, but then you have to wait in line like all day to get it. That's another thing.
Then we just don't know I don't know the process of me.
In like New York, you're just seeing lines all around the building. So then this goes back into the minimum wage conversation that we were talking about. So you have to get vaccinated to go to work, but then you can't really miss work to stand in line all day to get the vaccine. So now what are we really talking about? So I mean,
at that point, this is gonna kind of play too, and y'all know how I feel about the vaccine, so that's why I've been quiet. But
you still on that? Oh Jesus.
Okay, we're gonna move forward.
Free yourself, my brother.
We're gonna move on. Okay, this isn't like throw tomatoes in Henry moment. I'm trying to like make a point.
Yeah, Mackenzie gonna be outside.
You must.
I know you in Atlanta. You gonna be outside regardless.
Get to the point.
I'm trying, but y'all distracting me, not me. Point is, Mackenzie was saying like wages and having access to the vaccine. Essentially, one, how they're setting it up, like Mackenzie was talking the other day, like calling CVS and thinking you could just, hey, can I schedule an appointment? Get back? No, it's not that easy. And then like having again access, who like older people probably would have to like get it done first, and then like the process and just like shelling that out and getting it done. Because I would say like people like us, I'm 26. If I want to get like a vaccine right now, it'd be difficult.
I don't think you would. I think if you got it now, that'd probably be somebody probably shouldn't have given it to you. If I was being frank, but
especially in Georgia. So it's just like you said, it's levels to it, because the access, and then when they do let it roll up to CVS, because I don't know, I guess New York is more progressive than here, because I haven't seen it to where like people are.
I think that plays into also, this is another part of the conversation. Yes, there's enough vaccines available, but then what do you do in these states like Texas, Mississippi, Connecticut, where the governors have been relaxed restrictions? Yeah. So are they going to be as aggressive getting the vaccine out? Probably not.
Because I haven't seen it where I could like I'm saying, like I can't just go schedule an appointment or pull up. Like I only know here elderly people who have had access to it. And then even on the fact I know one of my like mentors or whatever, he was saying he was trying to get like vaccinated and he didn't qualify under whatever something. I wasn't really paying attention. But point is he couldn't get it and he's older. So to me it's like, yeah, you have like the vaccine, but what's the distribution and how are you gonna hold whomever accountable to ensuring that those people who want to get vaccinated can do such?
Yeah, I think that would probably be my biggest critique is that it does seem like, I mean, they're doing like 2 million vaccinations a day and they're rising. So they clearly are doing what needs to be done. I think it's just like, I think it's three people who are all relatively informed. I would say more than most. I don't really know the structure of how people know when they're able to get it. Like it just seems like you call
You're
your
supposed
you call your health provider and like I think it just, a lot of stuff just depends, but I think the messaging is kind of unclear about who fits in what tier. Obviously, they're working through like, you know, frontline workers and people who have public facing jobs, which they need to do first. That's most important. But then I think in terms of like, this will likely get fixed when people like us who are just kind of at home get it. And then to Mackenzie's point, which I think is a really big thing that I'm thinking about, like how many people are not going to take it by choice? Then what? Like what's the end strategy there? Because like if 20 million people who are out in society just consciously say, I'm not going to take it, then we're playing an even longer game that's, I think, a lot more difficult to, and like, then what happens? I don't know. That's just something that I think of. But
yeah, you're supposed to register online and then they'll email you when you're eligible. But I mean,
I didn't know that.
I think it works. I think that's how people are being notified. I'm not really sure, but like, I mean, that just sounds that we'll let you know when you can get it. Just sounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how it was at first with just getting a COVID test. It was very confusing about like who would you go to? Would you have to pay? You know, it's kind of like it's accessible, but not at the same time. Like I only know one place in this area where I can get one for free and pull up. Other than that, I don't know where else I can get one.
And then even registering online, like you're leaving out a lot of people who might not have access to Wi-Fi, might not have access to, you know, the equipment to register online. So then you're leaving out a lot of people for that. So it's just,
and that's what I was wondering why we were like discussing this. If people don't have health care, how are you getting this vaccine? Because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a deductible.
I don't think it would. I don't. My understanding is that you don't have to pay. That wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense.
I know that part. I know that part.
That would be too. That'd be.
I know a lot of people that have. Well, no, people had to pay for the COVID test, so I'm just like assuming that it would be the same thing. Because
allegedly you're not supposed to pay for the
you're not supposed to. Because then I think no one would get back. Because if I had to pay, even I'd be like, I'll wait a little while to see what the deal is.
Look, the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, I mean, well, they already got their money. That actually phases into kind of the overall kind of food for thought topic is that it has been a year since we have kind of adjusted the podcast where Henry and we were once in Hyattsville face to face in person, and now we are all on Zoom, and Mackenzie has joined us on full time because we're on Zoom. So I think what has been kind of, you know, how do you think what's your one biggest takeaway about kind of a year into COVID, kind of how we've adjusted both for better and for worse? I mean, you can take that any way you want, but obviously there's a lot to unpack there. But I think a year into COVID, what do you think has been the biggest kind of change that you've seen?
I think it's just kind of shown, like, I don't want to say this like in a good way, but like just showing how our society is so dependent on certain things. Like it was crazy to me to see that like in a matter of like 4 weeks, in a month, like our entire structure of like how we make money and like how our government works and the economy just was like crumbling in like 4 weeks. It's just like our system clearly is not stable enough to withstand at least 2 months, 3 months without it truly almost crumbling. But then it also, I feel like our culture is adjusting in a way where we aren't dependent on being in physical presence with each other to get things done and get things accomplished, which, I mean, some people do like to go in the office, some people don't. I personally don't mind working from home, but I do think even with us doing this podcast, I feel like we've restructured a lot of things that we just weren't able to do in person. Like it just eliminated, I feel like, a lot of extraness that wasn't really necessary to being productive. So
I would agree. I would say that I think it's made us more efficient, but I think it's also in certain aspects, but I also think it's told me a couple things. One, what actually matters, where I think if you kind of strip away everything else and kind of like the fluff and back and forth, like kind of like how I think with work, like if I can do my job from anywhere, why do I need to commute to it? That's a waste. Or just kind of like when you can't do other things, what really matters, like your closest friends and your family, like the things that, and like trivial things that you would get hooked up on when we can actually go outside now just kind of seem like nothing. And then I guess the last thing I would kind of think about, it also just kind of tells me that like if stuff really goes wrong, there's only so much like our government can really do or want to do, which I think has been, I already knew, but I think has been more eye-opening for me that just how bad I think all of this last year was and how much better it could have been. And that it didn't need to be this way at all. Like there's no reason why we should be in the house still, but that's because for 9 months, probably even more, we acted like this wasn't a thing, or like our government acted like this wasn't a thing. But that's for me. I mean, it's a mixed bag. Henry.
It's a lot because so much happened in this past year, from like when COVID started, George Floyd, or then Kobe Bryant, and then so much. It was like so much, and then the government wasn't doing nothing, and then the Capitol riots, and then like it's the election. It was a lot, but to the point you just said, I think that was the biggest like dang for me was one. As much as I knew like the government ain't crap, it was so blatant. It's like blatant now. You know, it was just like, well, they don't care. They're not trying to help at all. Like they'll toss us a bone there once in a while, but that's it. You know, it's like fend for yourself. And that was just like shocking, especially when like it's so much that happened. To Mackenzie's point, the economy kind of crashed. Like so many people got displaced quickly.
Yeah.
And it like rent wasn't paid, bills weren't paid. Like essentially,
if it not even to cut you off, but like if this was really a year ago, March, I feel like major layoffs started April 1st.
So I mean, think about it. Yeah, I was just thinking that like the airline industry for like a week, it felt like every airline was going to shut down. Like they were going to go bankrupt. And the government, of course, within like 2 days bailed them out.
And that's
I forgot about that.
I didn't forget about it because I guess that's why I've been kind of like rolling my eyes at the stimulus check, because when it Wall Street, like when the stock market crashed in 2008 or something like that, they are quick to bail corporations out all the time. And that's why I say, I guess for me, it becomes so blatant because this is my first time as an adult experiencing any type of like economy crashing or whatever. And I heard like Obama may have gave stimulus checks or whatever. I don't know. I asked my mom and she was like, yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
No, sir. No,
right.
Sir.
I don't know. I just heard, I missed, I don't know, might have missed her. I don't know. But point is, I was like, this is my first time as an adult experiencing some type of economy crashing. And the government didn't do anything for me as a like citizen. They gave me what, a good $1,900. So I'm like, okay, what was that going to do? You know what I'm saying? That's my rent. And maybe a bill, maybe some food. So it's like that just kind of stick out and was just like, dang, like they really like the government really not.
Our system is just it's clearly not
capitalism. Capitalism.
Yeah, it's just not
those who it work for. It doesn't benefit us. It's not. They wouldn't see it as broken. That's why they continue to do this like two heads of one snake bull crap.
I mean, yeah, but also it's like, yeah, it still works out for them, but it's still like, dang, you can't stand 4 weeks, 4 weeks, three weekends.
That too.
You can't withstand 3 weekends as a $1 billion corporation. That's fundamentally something is wrong with that.
But that would tell you how like we got credit, right? As Americans, most countries, other countries don't be having this stuff.
I mean, we're already in debt, but I mean,
right? That's what I'm saying. So like that, like, our companies and the wealthy or whatever, they operate off of debt.
I mean, a lot of them do, but I think
look at Trump.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a different story. But I think, and I'm just not thinking of it now. Like, I think, I couldn't imagine if I was, speaking from a point of privilege. I think that like if I actually did lose my job, or if I actually did work in an industry that was just gone like that, where people have good careers in hospitality, and all of a sudden you don't have a job for months, maybe even a year. And the lack of response, because like the stimulus is cool for us because we still are all employed people, and we are able to make do because we have the ability to, and we have families and stuff. But I think if you were just not in that position, what did you do for the last year? And
bro, I know people who
that's a really dark place.
Have to leave their house right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that's the conversation that needs to happen.
Oh man, don't come pick it up. Like I've heard a lot of like, I would say traumatic stories, because for me, I thank God, I'm gonna just leave it at that. But it's affected a lot of people very differently. And to your point, we're like, okay, we're the STEMI, whatever. But it's people that's like really struggling, like don't know where they're sleeping because whatever, the house payment couldn't get paid and the mortgage company not trying to hear it, or whomever. And it's really sad that like, I guess these big corporations, they see how they need to be built out, but there's no policy or anything in place to protect or work with or whatever the same people that are paying you to continue to thrive.
Yeah. Touche. Now we're gonna move on to the big fact that has to do with Georgia and the state of voting. Mackenzie, can you read this as I mute myself?
Oh yeah. So Monday, the Georgia House of Representatives approved a new bill that would place voter ID requirements on absentee ballots and limit weekend voting, which was crucial in delivering the presidency and the Senate Democrats. So yeah.
Thank you.
I saw this actually, and I think it's major. I think this is one of the major things that I think we're going to see come out of the Trump presidency, to make sure that whatever happened, we all know what happened in Georgia. Georgia was like,
it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, something like that does not happen again, where almost like, a president is really threatening people, really calling up people, really trying to cheat. Not to say, I mean, we don't know what other presidents are doing behind the scenes or whatever, but it was just so bad. And I think that this is something that's coming out. Well, this is something that's going to come out of the Trump presidency. And I'm kind of like, I'm really trying to see how far they're going to take it, because this really will change generations. Change generations of voting. And yeah, I am excited to see where this will go. And shout out to Stacey Abrams once again.
I mean, clearly she has at least people in Georgia scared shitless, like literally. Like I think they're doing everything they can to literally prevent her and Raphael Warnock, who are both running in 2022, from winning. And I think that naturally, Stacey Abrams is probably going to find a way, because she always seems to like do kind of what needs to be done. But I think that like the fact that this is happening and like Congress can probably do some things and they haven't done them yet, I think to me, like that's the most crazy thing because Congress has yet to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Amendment Act, which would kind of reinstate key provisions of the Voting Rights Acts that were taken down, that basically now states can kind of just do whatever they want. But Henry, as our Georgia resident here, has this been like a conversation like in the state? Because it seems like this would basically alter how y'all vote, when y'all can vote, how y'all can vote, like everything. Like it seems like you would literally need to somehow provide photo ID, give some type of photo ID if you absentee, which I don't know how structurally that works.
Right. Again, like I seen Stacey Abrams calling it out as like them trying to suppress so much back to like Jim Crow, and I agree. This is voter suppression. And for me, it is irritating as a person that lives in a Confederate state, and that's why I do think it's a big deal that it got flipped blue because like as much as we try to leave that stuff in the past, this is embedded in a lot of like the repercussions we're facing now. So I definitely think or hope that one they eventually get like John Lewis that act passed because for me that will kind of ease a little bit of tension I have about like like people be like not people but we know congressmen and stuff, they do all this redlining and like underground stuff that like us as Black citizens are not like privy to all the time or pay attention to. So when you kind of like get in a like let's say like this past election in November, it was a big like momentum, and depending on like let's say next year it's not a big momentum, or not next year, whenever we vote again, it's like, okay, whatever. And it just goes under the rail. And then they continue to like secure the judicial system and secure certain things to where they're able to write legislation and affect our daily lives. And I think that'd be the major thing for me. Like they're working on making it harder. And us as Black people, or not even Black people, I don't know, Democratic Party, whoever, we're not like always like paying attention to it, but they are. Because I specifically remember reading an article maybe like 2 years ago about like Eric Holder, like trying to or attempting to make a lot of attention or noise about this issue. Um, so yeah, I'll be curious to see like how far this goes, what happens with it, because it's like it's almost scary because like as much as we hate voting and say it doesn't matter, it does. Very much so. And they
Yeah.
just try to make a
And I think for me, like another thing I'm thinking of is like, I know this is happening in Georgia, but I think like one thing that I'm also really interested to see is like someone else needs to do the work too. Like I think we naturally default to be like, oh yeah, well Stacey Abrams is in Georgia and she's gonna like make everything great. And it's like she's doing that because literally none of y'all else will help her.
are
Like I
doing
think like someone else needs to do the work too. And that's, doesn't always have to fall on oftentimes a Black woman. Like that can fall on insert rich white person X with $1 billion who cares, or
that's
even not or a million.
real.
What do you say?
That's who's gonna really get the ball moving for real.
Yeah, I mean, like, just you don't even have to like do the work, fund it, like get out the way and let somebody else do the work. But like, all of this shouldn't fall on the Black person to then advocate to why Black people need their voting rights. That's just like not the way that should go. And I think that, for like, of course, for Democrats, this should be a big thing, but like, this should be the thing that they're like stopping everything for. Like, people should be in Congress. Like, I'm not voting for this COVID bill unless this is tacked in on it, because
But like, that's the thing.
today.
You just said something that in my mind alluded to this fact, like it's not their personal problem. Like look at Congress and look at how many Black people are just, or others are just now getting into that space.
Yeah, so I mean, well, I think
never
that's
a priority of Congress. So
yeah,
they're not.
I mean, well, I think that's the moment when you have to make it, and I think that's even me saying like the Black members who are in there need to literally have a I don't even know what the hell they need to do. All 50 of them need to get together and have a conference and literally say, we are halting this. We will not let it pass unless this is included, and everything else will shake out. Like, if you have the numbers, and they do, you don't need to just play along just to get along. If you have power, you have to use it. And I think like that's what this whole voting thing is for. That's why everyone cried about us voting to get Democrats to Senate and to get Biden in office. But then for you to tell me like, okay, oh, all these like procedural things are getting in my way. I don't care. I get something done. Because for every other issue, you get something done. But when it's for me, it's, oh, this is getting in the way of me getting minimum wage. This is in the way of you getting COVID. This is in the way of getting like maternal mortality stuff done. Like, just do. I think it can be that simple.
Don't you think this goes into what we've like been saying, even to what we asked Councilwoman Henderson and like what we talked about on other podcasts this year of who's holding them accountable to the stuff that the actual people who support this party care about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the work can always fall on someone to hold someone accountable, but I think it's like, just because you're not a hindrance to something doesn't mean you're a help. And I think that for a lot of like Black and progressive and Latino members, just because you're not like actively trying to strip the Voting Rights Act doesn't mean you're actually enhancing it. And I think that's like, staying neutral is not a good thing at that point. Like, if you're not improving something, you're not helping. And I think that's the conversation that they need to have. And I think like, there's only so much work people can do, but I think at the end of the day, it does fall on them to do something. And I think we can cry from the rooftops, but like, the work is being done. They just need to like, just do something. But I digress. So now we are going to move on to the heads up portion. I think it's not really a heads up, but just for awareness. Vernon Jordan, the civil rights leader, advisor to former President Bill Clinton and the Urban League president, died earlier this week at the age of 85. Some fun, interesting notes that I didn't know about him when I was kind of searching him up, doing some research. He was the only Black student in his class at DePaul University in Indiana when he graduated in the 50s. And after attending Howard Law, he began fighting segregation in the South. The craziest thing that I found out was that he also survived an assassination attempt in 1980, which I have never heard ever. Someone literally shot him in the back when he was leaving a hotel. I think that just speaks to the work that he was doing, that someone literally tried to take him out. But that's something that he doesn't talk about. And I think that that's kind of something that kind of gets avoided, that, we try to make oftentimes Black figures, men and women, kind of these like fun-loving people who are like, oh, giddy. But I think it doesn't often say that the work that they were doing was hated by a lot of people and that they weren't always so loved. But RIP to him, because that's, he's lived multiple lives. So
yeah, I didn't know that. That's
I didn't know he was on the board of trustees at one point either.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I feel like I've seen him.
He's been at Howard a lot.
That's what I'm saying. I'd like.
He lived here. He was very involved. Like, he would show up randomly at like chapel.
Yeah,
I was there. He's, like Henry said, he was on the board, so like he would come for like commencement and Charter Day, and what was the other thing we had?
I definitely seen him.
So yeah, he was definitely involved, especially at Howard. I think the last thing that we want to highlight as a group is our commitment to Women's History Month. Throughout the month, we will be highlighting important women who don't often get the headlines or who don't often get the credit for the work they deserve, both not only past, but also present. It is about giving people their flowers when they are here. So that is our commitment through the month. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at WRGOPod and Instagram, same thing, to see the highlights that we want to show about the amazing Black women who are around and of past. So that is our 68th episode. Mackenzie and Henry, thank you. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, as I just mentioned, at WRGOPod. Be sure to subscribe and like on YouTube, where you can watch this video in full. Also, be sure to check out and listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Check out our website at What's Really Going On. Be sure to buy the shirts at What's Really Going On pod.com/shop, and we will check it out. All right. See you guys.